We always just go.
We always just go. So I wrote about this on my website a while ago, but not many people saw it. Um, so I would be falling asleep with headphones on, these Apple headphones, and then I would hear a man saying the N-word really loud as part of a phrase, and it kept repeating. I thought it was like maybe, like from 90s hip hop where they would sample blaxploitation films. They'd have people like teenagers talking tough on the street and stuff, and they would bring it in. Okay. I thought it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
something like
I'm with you.
that. Then I started hearing a horse whinnying. It was my kid and her boyfriend. I told her I said, are you guys hearing this? And they were like, no, that sounds really weird. And kept it going for a month. They thought it was funny. These headphones would lose track of my device that they're supposed to be connected to and would
Mm-hmm.
automatically connect to my daughter's iPad, even though she had never borrowed these headphones. I'd never told them to work with her head, but and when they would flip over, they saw it, and so they would. It was like a prank of opportunity. Whenever they saw, and why wasn't my iPad wasn't telling me it was doing that? It was telling them, but it wasn't telling me because notification preferences,
Right.
or it was after I told it to stop notifying me when I'm watching TV at night. I didn't, but I must have set that up 2 years ago.
Yeah, she's on your iCloud account. Is that why?
She is. She is. Yes.
That's
So
that's why. So it's looking for other devices that are your iCloud, because I had that for a while with my iPad, and I don't use my iPad very often, but it kept connecting to it, and I couldn't figure out. I'd stop something and I'd press play again, and I'd start hearing music, and I'd be like, "Where is this
I
music
hear
coming
music
from?"
too, and that's
Yeah,
not them.
I just don't
And
understand.
I
Yeah.
will open. I will open Apple Music. No, I'm not playing anything there. I'll open Spotify. Nope, I'm not playing anything there. Then I'll look at my phone. Is it my phone? I don't know where it's coming from. And it happens. And I can stop it by hitting a button. So they're too smart for their own good. They sound good and they're comfortable. And
Yeah,
when
and
it
the noise
works,
canceling is
noise
excellent.
canceling. Sony has just as good noise canceling, but Sony, it's kind of like
Doesn't feel as
Windows
good.
95. It doesn't feel as
Yeah.
good. It feels like old computer stuff. Like,
Hmm.
put this convenient donut around your CRT terminal.
Yeah.
Now just use the commands. Like, so, but Apple does this thing where they're too smart for their own good, or they test it on 3 use cases, but there's millions. Like, oh, here's a middle class family. They probably have multiple generations. Like, I don't recycle my old phones. I just keep them in a drawer. Like, I don't want to pollute the world. For a while, I would. Did you used to keep them like for testing web design? Like,
For
how does it
testing,
look?
for sure.
Right. For like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
does
I don't
my
do
iPhone
that
4?
anymore,
No, I
but
don't either.
I do still have a couple of iPod touches that I
Oh,
also have
those are nice.
what are they, shit, a Newton.
Classic
I have a
iPod.
Newton still.
You have a Newton?
The original
Okay.
iPod.
Did you ever talk to oh man, why am I blanking on this guy? Is a wonderful guy. He was let's see, he was involved in Veer. He's a designer. He's a Canadian designer. Really smart guy, around our age, I think. And he's been around forever. But he made a couple of things that sold to like Adobe or something. But yeah, why am I blanking on his name? This is awful. I feel very embarrassed, but it's just
To be clear, the first time we tried recording this, we were also having both of us having trouble being like, what was that person's name?
yeah.
I know that I had lunch with them at this place at this time of day in Austin, and it's just like, nope, can't remember their name.
No, I do that
So
all the time now at my
yeah.
age. When I'm just hanging out at home, or talking to a really close friend, I don't struggle for words, but I have noticed at work,
Mm-hmm.
like if I'm
Yeah.
writing, no problem. I can write 100 paragraphs while you blow your nose. But if I have to talk in a room, all of a sudden and I used to speak all the time, but I just feel like the part of my brain that handles words for talking works differently and is somehow disconnected from the part that writes.
Yeah. I think that's
Which I
fair.
prefer writing anyway, which is probably just, I just want to get the thought out and not be interrupted.
Yeah. I also tend to write or do well, I think that I do better writing. Who knows, really? But um because it allows me to say things the way I want to say completely.
Yes,
Um
you still have to be tactful most times.
do I though?
Well, let's say
I do. I do. I do. I'm just kidding. It's
I said something rude today uh, to a colleague. I didn't mean it to come off as rude. I was just trying to be honest, and I just thought at this point I should just be honest. But they were, I thought, overthinking something. I could be
mhm.
wrong, and I just said, "Sounds like classic overthinking to me." But carry on. And then afterwards, I was like, I should take that down. And then I was like, no, they know me. They know I'm not mean. So
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Is like I I was talking about this with somebody recently, and I think every once in a while I fall into two traps, and one of them is I forget that a lot of times when I'm speaking or when I'm writing, I forget that my audience is sometimes more than the person who I am speaking to. And if I know the person pretty well, I will speak differently than
sure,
if I don't, you know,
we
that's
all do
normal.
that, right?
But, you know, every once in a while I'll be like, you know, uh, talking to my friend Peter and I will, you know, find an opportunity to zing him, you know, just to because it's how we communicate, it's established communication pattern. And then I do it in front of somebody else and they're like, what? Like they get all offended on his behalf and
Mm,
I understand it, but I forget that I need to shift the way I talk based on who I'm talking to.
sure.
And I will say one thing I don't well I don't know if I do it. I don't think I do it too much is with this is I'm just talking with you. Other people may hear this at some point, but I'm not concerned about that because this is not
It's not
I
that
don't
kind of podcast.
no. It's I just
It's
want to
not
talk
a,
with
yeah.
you and it just happens to be recorded and other people might get something out of it. Like a couple weeks ago I released the episode with Abby Covert. Um I believe that's how she pronounces her. I've never heard Abby say her last name before. It could be Covert. I don't know. Um, but you know, at the very end of it, we talked about both being late diagnosed autism with autism. You know, it's all of a sudden she became like aware that she said that out loud and that it was because up until that point, it was just a conversation between us that happened to be recorded. And then she was like, oh, other people are going to hear this. And that's the first time I'm saying this out loud publicly. Ultimately, she decided to say, yes, just ship it. Um, but but that's just kind of the thing. I like how these are conversations between people and someone might find them interesting and that's enough, you know,
Absolutely.
for me.
But I would not let's say that you and I had an enemy that we both disliked intensely.
We do, but go ahead.
I don't think we do, but if we did, well,
Oh, we
I'm
do.
not talking about Elon Musk
Not,
or not,
oh, okay.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about among people we know, colleagues,
A
for
real
example.
person. Okay.
A real person, right?
Not
A
a
person we
caricature
actually
of a
know.
person.
A
Yeah.
person we actually know and who's not a bull in a china shop with way too much money.
Right.
Um,
Eric Meyer. Let's pick
Let's
on
say,
Eric.
okay,
Yeah.
let's pretend,
Let's pretend.
let's pretend that you and I dislike Eric. We love him,
Yeah.
but let's pretend we don't.
We love Eric.
I still wouldn't say anything, even in a private conversation podcast with you. I still wouldn't say, Eric Meyer, blah, 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 because I just
Yeah.
wouldn't, because you just,
Yeah.
you know. Um, I used to carry tails when I was younger. I used to drink, and I'm sure they're related.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
35 years ago, I was in advertising and I was a drinker and a drunk. And I never understood when I got fired after saying something really shockingly honest.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't do that now. I'm honest with people, but I don't go out. If something might be hurtful, even with my best friend, there's things I'm not going to say. And
Mm-hmm.
with my family members, I love them, but there's things that would be hurtful to say, and I'd probably be wrong anyway. By the way, if listeners aren't watching the video, because what's there to see? Two old guys with headphones. They're
With
missing
amazing headphones.
they're missing the treat of your glasses. Can you tell me something
Thanks.
about these orange?
Well, I
The
can
shape,
find them very easily.
right, right.
um,
Orange, man.
yeah, I mean, I think so. I don't go in for much in the way of fashion anything, except for glasses and watches. Um, and I don't actually have a watch on right now, but I have a weird, or I like to collect unique watches that are not overly expensive. But like I have a watch that's made out of a melted down AR-15, and or
Wow.
not a full, just part of the metal, because that would be
Yeah,
an
I would
awfully big
hope so.
watch. Yeah,
I think they
it'd
call that
be
a clock.
the Flava Flav would be interested. But glasses is the other thing, and it really started back when I was at State Farm and we had the, whatever it is, the set money aside in this account for healthcare expenses,
Yep.
HSA, something like that.
Right.
And it would get to the end of the year and still have $700 in it, and I'd be like, I guess I'll get a $700 pair of glasses because I got to use it or I'm going to lose it.
Right. Right.
And that kind of opened up the floodgates as far as fancy glasses go.
That's
So
how I ended up. For a while, I had these beautiful Eames desk units, EDU. They're called. They're just like they look like the illustrators from Adventure Time designed a desk. It looks like it doesn't even look 3-dimensional really. It looks what's that called? Where you like
like
make
a
angles,
forced
rectangles.
perspective, or
Yeah,
wait,
but
no.
no, like
Oh,
a
you mean
no
like
perspective.
yeah.
There we go.
See, again, we're struggling with
Again,
words, but
again.
I'm with you.
Yeah, you know what I mean, though.
We'll fix it in post.
Oh, it's not Decatur. And it's not Mercator. It's oh man, these angles. I see the angles in my head. I see the blurry shape of the word, but I don't see the word. Do you
That's okay.
see words? Sometimes, like
No.
when you have to spell something, do you see it in your head?
Mm-mm. No.
Does your writing change depending on the layout? Do you write differently for different layouts? I'm going to guess that you do.
Expand on that. I'm not sure exactly what you mean.
You have to update the copy
Mm-hmm.
on an old website, but you're not allowed to touch the design, let's say.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And the design, it has lots of really tiny type, maybe more subheads and bullet points then. Or it's a modern, very readable, but it looks like a book almost. It looks real.
Mm-hmm.
Then you write more like a book author. You write
Yeah.
fewer subheads, no bullets, nothing
Yeah.
to click. Just, like that.
Yeah. But I think that is the the UX part of my brain, which is just what is the context within which I'm working and adjust accordingly.
It's another
Um,
way for an author to think of audience. So
mhm.
when you're writing, like, who's going to read this? What do they know already? Do I have to tell them everything from the beginning? Are they
Yeah.
advanced? Like if you're writing a technical book, let's say, or a design book. But this is another way. Like, where does it appear? And what are
Yeah.
people trying to do? Right. It's the UX part of your brain. Are they trying to book a hotel before boarding a flight? Then it better be fast and easy to use. Are you trying to persuade them that they should take a unique vacation in your splendid resort? Maybe
Right. It's
lots of pictures.
emotional,
Yeah,
engaging.
right.
It's, yeah. Yeah. And I will say, like, I do make a distinction between writing for someone else and writing for myself,
Absolutely.
because I do think, again, going back to that trap of I forget who my audience is when it's my own stuff. Like, I'll go back and read old blog posts and be like, oh, I left out defining this term or defining what I meant by this or how I was using it. Because in my mind, I'm like writing for people who I forget that people don't know what I know sometimes when I'm doing my own writing, which is going to be interesting because I'm working on a book that is about UX research that's meant to be for people who don't know a lot about research.
So, how will it differ
So,
from Just Enough Research by Erica Hall?
um, funny you should say that, because the introduction says, does there need to be yet another UX book? No.
And I'm
No.
not trying to raise that
It's
argument at
a
all. I just,
it's a
if I
reasonable
were still
question.
published,
Yeah.
I were still publishing and you came to me, I'd go, oh, is this something that could complement Erica's book? Like, how does it add to the conversation?
Yeah. So it is, I don't know that it does specifically, but my pitch is that I believe I have something to say. I know a lot about it. My voice matters. And also, and this is in the introduction, also your voice will matter too at some point, and you should write a book about it. You should be sharing this knowledge, because, kind of like when we, in our first attempt at recording, when we were talking about books that really sort of coalesced a lot of our thinking early on, um, nobody reads those books anymore, right? It's Erica Hall's Just Enough Research. It's not Ginny Reddish's interviewing uh, for, or what is it, user and task analysis, and it's a lot of the same stuff, right?
I thought you mean people aren't reading books like Responsive Design or Mobile First. They're not reading books with
Yeah,
a big idea.
I think
I don't know
that
what
that's
people are reading now.
probably, I don't know. I think that that's more true because they can watch a YouTube thing that
I think
explains it.
people, yeah, I think there's lots of video learning and lots of blog post learning.
Yeah, yeah,
And the idea of just sitting down with something and going, I don't know anything about this, but by the end of 3 hours, I'll have finished this book and I'll know everything I need to know to get started.
right. Yeah,
Like, that's a great thing. Those are rare.
yeah, yeah, and that's just enough research. That's the whole premise behind a book apart, right? It's,
It was, yeah.
let's get you going.
And
This isn't going
those
to give you
books,
everything, but it's going
yeah,
to give you a lot.
yeah,
But that's, my thing with this book is, a friend of mine and I, we, when the pandemic started, we were like, we need something to do, and so we wrote a 16-hour course on research from beginning to end, right? Um, and I took all the text just out of our deck and threw it into a document, and it's
yeah.
36,000 words.
Dear Lord, that seems like a lot. Is that a book? That seems like a lot
I
more than a
mean,
book.
well,
It sounds like Lord of the Rings.
novels are like 50 to 60K, tend to be.
Okay, okay. But
Um,
there's inherent interest in reading a novel that there's like, you can lack momentum when you're like telling people about CSS or something.
yeah,
It's a lot harder to keep, you know. I want to find out,
Yeah,
did this character live or die? Did their choices catch up with them? Did they get away with it? Like, I want to, it's pretty hard to.
which is exactly why I'm taking the narrative nonfiction approach with it. So it's going
Cool.
to be
Tell
a
me more
story
about that.
about it's going to be a story about someone who has been handed a project that they don't know how to do, and there will be car chases. No, there won't be car chases. I don't know. Maybe there will be. I haven't written it yet. That part of it.
That's
Uh,
great. No, I love
yeah,
that.
and following this person as they grow in their capabilities, arguing with people. It's all going to be pulled from stuff that we've run into before, of trying to convince somebody to do something other than guessing their way out of a problem. Um, yeah, so
That's my least
it's
favorite thing. And
guessing your
it,
way out of a
and it,
yeah.
and it gets into human dynamics that are not leadership dynamics. Human dynamics like, I'm afraid to commit to this idea that we all liked yesterday. Are we sure? Maybe we don't really like it. I don't want to be blamed if something goes wrong. So, and it's all that. There was that wonderful cartoon in Don't Make Me Think, right? There was that cartoon of a bunch of people sitting around a table, and the designer was saying, it needs to be colorful, and the project manager was saying, we should keep this confined within our budget, and everybody was bringing their expertise, but that's how they were discussing the project, and no one was saying, what do the users need? Where is it failing? Where
And what
isn't it
what
helping?
promises have we made to our customers, and how do we
Right.
deliver on those well?
Well, you don't have to
That's
anymore,
the
by the
question.
way.
Well, apparently.
Now lying is like great. In fact, you should promise to end war and then start a war. You should promise to
Overpromise and underdeliver.
overpromise and underdeliver.
Basically,
We
that's
were
it, right?
we were so wrong when we were
Yeah.
like actively working as consultants. We thought, you know, promise them it may help and then make sure it does help.
Hmm.
Yeah, but now it's the opposite. How are you bearing up emotionally with the assault on human dignity that's happening 5,000 times a day now? And not just in America, but
Yeah.
but America being now the example that
Um,
people, yeah,
yeah. Well, I think I try to keep in perspective that at least for the next 4 or 5 years, who I am and what I look like will allow me to skate through pretty much anything. Um, which is not good, but
unless, yeah,
imminent threat perspective, like it's
but you must have
I
friends who are threatened.
yeah, friends and other people who are close to me, like and so we've already had conversations with other friends who don't live in this country about, hey, can this person come and live with you if things get really shitty? So that's a great conversation to both think about having and then actually have.
I
Um,
agree. I have a friend who
Nobody
lives in
should have to
live.
have that conversation.
No, but we do now. I have a friend who lives in Portugal, and his wife is Ukrainian, and they're
Hmm.
moving here. And I love him. And I can't wait and he's moving to New York, and I can't wait for him to be in New York. And I'm going to hang out with, they're great people. It's going to be so fun. My daughter likes them too. Guy's a multi talented artist. He's got a custom synth that he built himself and does like record mastering and stuff. Lots of like, it's hitting like my passions, my hobbies, everything. He's great. But I just keep saying, are you sure? Because I'm scared. Like if I were in Portugal right now, I wouldn't think, I mean, admittedly, New York is probably safer than Houston, not to put anybody down or even, but I
Yeah.
think you're more likely to get arrested for getting pregnant in Houston than you are in New York. Like, you know, or having a miscarriage. They're arresting people for having miscarriages. I don't see that happening in New York yet. I don't see that ever happening in New York, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
So they
I
are
don't know.
moving to New York at least, but I don't know. I have a friend in Montana,
Hmm.
and it's interesting because most of her neighbors live far away, and um, there are militias out there, like lots of that. So she sort of
Yeah.
has to navigate that. But she's a white woman, so and she's old enough that she's not going to get attacked the way like a younger woman is, the way predators go for younger women, right?
Hmm.
She's like old enough now that she's not going to be a predator's first thought. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
that doesn't mean she's safe. No woman's really safe in this world, but she's safer than my daughter would be in that same environment. So,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, I
man,
don't know. I think I have to be really careful about the words that I use, not solely from a political perspective, but just from my uh, my anxiety. That's what it is. It's my anxiety is telling me that I don't see a way out of this without violence. And the people who I see saying we need to talk, we need to reach across the aisle, we need to all this stuff. I'm like, sure, but when that doesn't work because it hasn't been working for the past 40 years, um, how far are you willing to go to see your vision of what this country should be come true? And I suspect that people are going to be surprised how far they will have to go. Or not suspect, I'm worried that
worried that people will go, it's too hard. This isn't so bad.
it's
I'm
either
not trans. I'm
they'll
not
give up,
black. I'm
right,
not
right,
whatever.
yeah,
Or, but I mean, they're
because
being
that's
arrested.
how
Yeah,
humans work. And I just hope that this time, because we've done this before. I almost said we've done this dance before, but I didn't want to undercut the importance. We've done this before. It's relatively recent that it's happened. It's happened in other countries even more recently. Like, I'm kind of hoping we learn our lesson this time. It seems like there's enough pissed off people
let us hope.
that are on every point of the spectrum politically.
Right. That's the other thing I was just pondering a couple of days ago. Are you
Yeah.
ready? This
Yeah,
is
go.
weird. Okay. So I would not be what you would call a hard leftist. I'm not a Marxist. I actually think it makes a lot of sense. I think Marx's analysis makes a lot of sense, but I don't know where you go with it. Like, I don't really want to. I think a more socialist approach, or like controlled capitalism with regulations, which is like maybe that can work. Um, why am I saying this? God damn, my brain. I started to tell you something that seemed very important to me, and it has just flown out of my head. Why is anyone? I apologize, listeners. Matthew has a really good show. Just maybe
Fuck
not
those
this
people.
episode. Maybe not this episode, but generally. Um, wait, what had you just said?
Getting through this without violence, the
Right,
multiple people on the spectrum, like
right. Now
everybody's
I remember.
angry.
Everybody's angry.
Okay.
That's what I realized. I remembered everybody's frightened and everybody's angry. Not only that means people with whom I fundamentally disagree about many, many things are just as frightened and unhappy as I am. They may be blaming the wrong people because news may mislead them. I could be blaming the wrong people because the news I look at may mislead me. Like, just the idea that that we reach this sort of peak of human civilization, signified by the beginning of the web and the late 90s. Like, I think The Matrix was right. Human civilization peaked in the 1990s. And now it's just politically and every other way, we're just, I don't know. I have a friend who thinks we're going to be reduced to digital serfdom, that just a few very rich kings, basically, corporate kings, will
We've
say,
kind
you'll
of
take
been
the
there for a
job I give
while.
you. Yeah,
We've been
but
there
I
for a
mean
while.
worse. But I mean
Yeah.
worse. Like,
Yeah.
someone like you or I won't be able to say, I expect such and such a salary, or, and lots of people, not just you or me, not just that we're special, but like lots of people, doctors, lawyers, everybody, and workers. Workers will be
Yeah.
like, yeah, I guess peeing in a bottle wasn't so bad.
Right.
You know, I
And
just,
it won't,
I
and that
fear that.
reduction in salary or that reduction in what you
Rights.
take home won't be supplemented with extra rights or extra support.
Right,
Um,
right. In
right.
Sweden, everyone pays 50%. I don't know the actual number, but let's say it's 50%. Everyone plays, and then everyone, nobody, it goes to the poorhouse because mom has cancer.
Right. Yeah.
Nope, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's homeless. And
Right.
we don't have to be
But
either.
because some random person thinks in America thinks that someday they'll be the hospital CEO and they'll be benefiting from that large salary, that maybe things are okay the way they are. Like
There's
maybe
that,
we
and
don't need.
yeah.
But then I think, again, in my best self mind, I think that, separate out from this statement the people on the left and on the right who find joy in other people's suffering,
Right.
because I
Those are
don't
sick
think
people.
that's most of the people.
That's not most of the people. Right.
I think everybody else wants the same things. I think we disagree on the how. That's where the big contention comes,
Well,
is the how it plays
okay.
out. But like,
Do you think
if you were
everybody
saying,
wants it? Does everyone want children to be fed at school? I would
I think
say
everyone wants children. I think if you abstract it a bit more and say, do you want children to starve?
most people
The
will
answer is
say
going to
no.
be no. Right? So we want the same thing. Okay, well, let's
Except
feed them
maybe
at
they want, maybe
school.
they don't care
Okay,
about
no,
brown
that's
people starving because they think, well, the brown
well,
people will go away.
right.
They'll leave my country. This is a white country. They don't belong here.
Yeah, but
There's
I
that whole
again,
thing.
those are the people who find joy in other people's suffering.
But
And I
that,
honestly
and
don't think
also,
that that's most people. I
I don't
think
think it's most people, but I do think the
I
other
want
thing,
to think that at least.
the thing Lyndon Johnson said, if you can tell the poorest white man that he's
Yeah,
innately
yeah.
superior to any black man, you can go ahead and pick his pocket. And that's absolutely true. There are poor people, unemployed people, people without benefits sending money to campaigns that want to remove their income even more. Because, and on the flip side of that, we have wealthy liberals who vote to increase their own taxes. Like, well, I'm fine paying taxes. I belong, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm one of those technically wealthy liberals who votes to increase my taxes.
Okay.
But like in Portland, it's pretty tax heavy. Um,
Yeah.
but the
Yeah, New
stuff
York too.
it's stuff that it's supposed to be addressing. Again, this goes into how the money is then used, which is not necessarily well, but um, the purpose of the money makes life in Portland more stable for more people. It doesn't always play out that way. And again, this is how those funds are then managed. That is sometimes the problem. But the purpose of them, I'm
which
fine
is
with
which is
paying
how you
a
get
little extra
people.
for that.
Me too, but the fact that it's not done all that well sometimes
Yep.
makes people go, yeah, well, maybe we should have a government efficiency bureau. So they buy
Right.
into it in
Yeah.
theory, but then you've got morons removing things they don't understand. Like, the plane doesn't need this propeller. It seems really heavy and expensive to replace. Let's get rid of the propeller. Plane's starting to crash. I don't know why. Well, fuck
Right.
them, you know.
Yeah. They probably did something wrong.
I
Yeah,
just think it's
and that's the
amazing how we
thing.
can't get away
Like,
from Twitter. You quit Twitter after years of loving Twitter so that you don't have to deal with Elon, and
mhm.
then he takes over the country. Like so
Yeah, I don't know.
even if you're personally safe for a while because they're not coming after Scotch Irish or
Right.
I'm guessing here, but you
I'm
know,
at the end of the list of the they came for and I said
yeah,
nothing litany.
yeah.
Um,
I'm kind of high up there.
because of where I live, and this is an excuse at its core, but because of where I live in a state that was established as a white utopia, um, that had laws on the books up into the 80s, I think, that, black people couldn't buy houses. Um,
In Oregon,
oh, Oregon. Yeah, yeah,
even
yeah.
Portland,
Even Portland.
the spirit of the
Portland's like
90s is alive in Portland.
97% white. Yeah.
I thought that
Yeah.
was just because they're so close to Canada or something. No,
No, Oregon was very specifically established as a territory to become a white utopia. And
dear
laws
God,
were, oh, yeah. I'll send you a link after this. It's
they
fucking
didn't
terrible.
teach me that. I mean, there's a lot of
Of
things they
course
didn't
not.
teach me
Of
about,
course not.
but they
Yeah,
really,
I mean,
and
there's
they
a lot of
won't be
stuff to
teaching it
learn,
for a
but
while.
yeah.
They won't be teaching it for a while. Like you could go to jail or disappear just for saying that.
Yeah.
You know,
So it's,
maybe
I don't know the extent to which my voice matters. I know the instant reaction for a lot of liberal people would be to say, of course your voice matters. We need your voice. I'm like, but most people don't listen to me anyway. So, and where I live, like it doesn't have a lot of impact. Like our vote in Portland doesn't have a lot of impact because it's, a core
predictably
of
liberal.
blue and a sea of red. Um, take Portland out of the mix, and Oregon is very much a red state.
I did not
Um,
know that. But
yeah,
how many
it's
people are in Oregon once you take Portland out of the mix?
0.5 million, something
Okay,
like that. I
that's
can't remember.
people.
I think it's like 2 million. I don't remember. Um, it's not a lot, but relative to where you live. But shit, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, my voice not mattering. And pair that with the fact that I am every day wake up and am enraged by some of the things I see, to the point where I wish certain people just stopped living.
Sure.
And
I don't think you're unique in having that feeling. I can
no,
tell you that
but
you're not.
I,
Like
as an individual, don't
yes.
know how to reconcile sharing my voice about things and calling for people's death.
Well, I don't think you're going to call for people's death,
No, I'm not.
but
But
I, it was much,
emotionally,
I was totally, if you asked me 20 years ago, I would have just told you the death penalty is evil. We absolutely shouldn't do it. But now there's certain people that
I mean, that's the whole point. It's like you where you're at now, like your level of
I've changed.
sensitivity for other people is higher because of the life you've lived. And there are a lot of people in this country who don't get the opportunity or don't take the opportunity to
Right.
live a life where their perspective is challenged and potentially changed.
Right. Like there's a thing on the left where we sort of laugh at how stupid or uneducated some people on the right are.
Mm-hmm.
But
But
I
they've been
was helped,
purposefully
kept that way.
undereducated
And
for
my
decades. Yeah.
parents believed in education. I went to a state school, but not everybody can do that, like going to college. But at the time I was growing up, it was assumed your parents worked in a factory or teachers or policemen or something, and then the kids would go to college and be doctors, lawyers, journalists, whatever. It was just assumed. My dad was an engineer, but he had the GI Bill put him through. And now we're cutting benefits to veterans like that.
Yeah.
The things that are
Fucking hell.
unthinkable, the things that are unthinkable. Like, why isn't Bush just saying, leave our veterans alone for God's sake? Like, what, how hard would that be? He may agree that abortion should be illegal. Let's say he agrees with that. Let's say he and I are never going to agree on that. He could still raise his voice about this other thing, which is shameful. Someone gets their arm blown off, preserving your rights, and then,
Yeah.
and now the cut. I don't even, we could do this
Yeah.
for too long. So
I
let's.
mean, that's my liberal streak is like I don't feel like we should have a military. Like I feel like
Okay.
the moment you get to the point where we need a military now, it's like you suck at your job of working with other people.
Except,
And I'm being super high level just to get the thought out.
okay, sorry.
But the reality is that we do have a military. And the moment you start shitting on those people, like really shitting on those people and taking away their benefits and screwing them over the way that this administration is doing, fuck you.
I hope.
You know?
Yeah, I hope. They're screwing
God
up so
damn it.
badly. I hope. Yeah, like I know that there are still a lot of veterans that support this administration. I don't see how, but I'm exposed to different information than they are. But I don't think he can keep this up. I don't think he can take away my pension and your pension and our grandparents' pensions and have everybody go along with it unless they really just you know I'll tell you what I do. I don't look at the news first thing in the day. Sometimes I go a whole day
Yeah.
without looking at all. I may go to Blue Sky, but I don't I found that most of the people who are clever about the horrible news are on, for whatever reason, most of the people I follow who do that tend to be on Threads, which is why I haven't left Threads, and not on Blue Sky, like the people with big voices and big followings who say really, really clever things. But just liking a bunch of clever things that say how horrible this is doesn't feel like I'm actually helping anyone or doing anything. I mean, I am giving emotional. If enough people do that, then people who feel this
Mm-hmm.
way know we're not alone. That's nice, but
Yeah.
that's like table stakes. That's not even table stakes. But at the same time, I'm not going to go to a violent protest because I'm an old man and I have a 20-year-old who needs me, and you know she'll be independent soon enough. But I'd still like to stay. I'd like to stay alive for her and her kids eventually. And so yeah,
Yeah, I
so
don't know.
I'll
It's I don't know how to reconcile the different um and that I also get really really overwhelmed when I'm around a lot of people.
that makes it harder too, right? Me too.
So it's
How did we do so well at South by? How did you and I enjoy South by for years, given that
I don't
we're
know.
basically antisocial? I don't mean like we
Yeah.
dream of killing people or
No, I know what you
stealing.
mean.
I
Yeah.
mean, just like my favorite thing about party planning is imagining waving goodbye to the people as they leave, having them go, "That was a great party. Thanks for coming. I love you guys." And then I close the fucking door. Like, and it's not that I love people. I
Yeah.
really
No, I get
like.
it. I get it.
It's almost like I'm too emotional, and
So
exposure to people
I have this really
stimulates all that.
strong memory of being in it was one of the halls at South by, and I was talking, and I came up to you, and you were standing alone, and I very vividly remember saying, "Is it okay? Like, can I talk to you?" Um, and you and I stood there and talked for like I don't know, probably 20 minutes or so. And I very vividly remember people starting to come over, and I would just look at them and be like, you know, just like,
Is that
"Go
how that
away."
happened?
And it was like, because I think you were about to go on, and I was just like, I'm gonna try my best to give you space here, because if you're alone, people are gonna come up to you, but if I'm there, people will run away because they fear me.
Wow, I never knew that. Thank you. Derek
Yeah, I'm
Polazic did that for me one year too. He kept seeing me sort of get. I think it was a year I gave a big talk, and my wife and child couldn't come with me that year due to some last minute fuckery with the. We basically couldn't get our new car seat to work in the taxi, and that was it.
yeah,
And we were,
yeah.
and I had to go. I had to go. I made a friend though. Someone else took their seats, which I still paid for. You know how they do that? They don't refund your money
Mm-mm.
for the two people that didn't travel with you, but they do charge other people for those seats.
Well, that makes sense.
That's what they
Man,
do.
we're in the wrong business.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't want to be in the airline business now either, though. Would
Or
you?
travel anywhere.
I don't want to travel anywhere. I'm glad that we postponed our grand meetup till next year, and I'm really glad because I was just dreading that.
You mean for automatic?
For automatic, yeah, where I
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
Yeah. It was just going to be a flight to California, easy from New York to California, like fly directly to go to Anaheim. It was going to be, I was looking forward to it, but not with what's that horror movie? Okay, here's the who's the guy? Okay, the guy
Here
who
we go.
made
Okay.
The Happening, the guy who made okay, he made Signs. He just
Oh,
made
M. Night Shyamalan.
Night Shyamalan. M. Night Shyamalan. He made a movie called The Knock on the Cabin Door, I think. Did you see it? There's some really frightening imagery in it where basically apocalypse starts
Hard
happening,
pass, but okay.
but planes are just falling from the sky. I hope
Okay.
I'm not ruining the movie, but it's very well done. It looks real. Now, if you've never seen The Happening, I think it's his worst movie. If you like watching bad movies with witty friends, like you can just crack jokes all the way. It's like your own mystery science theater, right?
Mm.
You just watch. Marky Mark is the hero, and he plays a chemistry teacher, which I don't see him as that.
I don't know. Maybe that was his calling long ago, and he got his opportunity to
I
get as close as he could, right?
I don't think Marky Mark. I think he's much more
So
natural,
with
like in Ted, playing a stoner with a talking teddy bear. That's more believable.
um, yeah, I think just the other thing that came to mind about South by, like how did we survive? I think it was like we said last time, we were there when it was a little bit more manageable.
It was small.
But
There
I
was a
think the other
thousand
thing
people, and
is
you read all their blogs.
right,
You knew
right.
everybody.
The For the last few years I was there, so I think it was like, pretty sure I did it in 2006, 7, and 8. But I did this kickoff dinner at Moonshine, and we would get the Sunday room, which was like, it seats 26 people or something like
Is
that.
that on the back porch or it's another part?
It's, you go into the back porch, and then it's this little building off in the back.
You never
And
invited
it's
me to that.
it
Oh,
was, I put the invitation
no,
on
no, I'm
Twitter
just
and
I'm just
anybody to
messing with
sign
you.
up. So yeah.
There we go. Okay.
But I bought dinner for everybody.
Wow.
Um, this was back when I had money. Um, and like, that was a great way for me to sort of ease into things, because I got to play host, which meant I didn't necessarily have to like stay with a conversation. I could be like, okay, I got to talk to somebody else because I'm kind of being a host now. And that always saves me. Like when I would do meetups here in Portland or in Boston, like if I was the host, I could handle it. It was fine. There'd be 200 people there. Great. No big deal.
Event Apart was like that for
But
me
if I
too.
was yeah, like the one I went to was 2008, I think, Event Apart. There
Well,
was
that probably was a really good one.
850 people in the room.
Were there really
Um,
that many?
yeah. Yeah. I remember,
Was that the one in Portland or in
no,
Seattle?
there was the one in Boston.
Boston. Okay.
Because I remember I was standing on stage with you and Eric talking before it like kicked off, and one of you said, "I cannot believe how many people are here," and one of you said it was like 8, 7, high sevens, low eights, something like that.
That's
But
amazing.
if I'm there as an attendee, it's hard. Like I will sit in the front row, like at Event Apart, I sat in the front row,
Me too.
and it's like so that I am not fully surrounded by people.
But also so you can watch their lips
So I can pay
move,
attention.
pay
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't. There's a lot of people that like to sit in the back, and that's where the stoners were in high school. Like, right,
Yeah.
right. That's okay. But if you're paying $1,000 to attend a 3-day event, don't you kind of want to soak it all up?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? I did get
But it's
exhausted from it. The last couple of years were hard for me. I mean, even
yeah.
before COVID, I was starting to burn out on business travel. And I
Yeah.
took nice
I get
care of
that.
myself and everything, but plus I got a cold every trip I took. I would either be sick during the show or immediately afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
If there was something on a plane, I caught it. And it didn't occur to me to mask.
Right. I mean, I've avoided shaking hands with people. I was thinking about this morning.
When? How? All your life?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
of
And I will get
germs?
so much. Yeah. Because, like, hello. Okay. Now I'm going to acknowledge the listeners or whatever. But, like, the number of, because this is my view on things, the number of men who don't wash their hands in the bathroom at a conference and then go out and meet and greet people, like, no.
You're not wrong.
And I got so much shit for not shaking hands with people. Like I've offended them. And I'm like, look, man, I don't have any weapons up my sleeves. It's fine. And just the other day I saw someone cough into their hand. Like we're 5 years into this fucking pandemic. Cough in their hand, wipe it on their leg, and then their friend arrived moments later and they shook hands with them. And I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Do you hate this person that much? No, and they don't. They're just not thinking about it. I get it, but
It's how they grew
it's
up.
just,
It's hard to
yeah.
unlearn those habits.
And I think for me that was one of the things about these conferences and stuff that I had a really hard time with, is that in order to protect myself both from getting sick, because I didn't want to get sick every time I went to these things,
And from getting
and also
overwhelmed
for getting
as a
overwhelmed,
neurodiverse
I
person.
had to keep distance, and that was never, one, I didn't quite understand it early on, and two, it was never, not never, it was rarely welcomed, rarely accepted, that Matthew is just a little bit different, but he can be cool if you get to know him. I hope. Um, and it's something that like I
And it
really
didn't help when
enjoyed
people did
going, but
codes of conduct and all that. That didn't help
I don't
that
think that
period.
that really started until like
2012,
2019,
2011. Oh, wow.
oh
That
no.
late?
I I
I
well, you're
know it was
right.
before
You're right. No,
2019.
you're right.
I think it
It
was,
was like 2012.
yeah.
Yeah, because the
Because I
first time
remember
I remember
arguing
running
about
into
it
that,
internally.
yeah,
Like,
whether
should
or
we
not
do
it should
this?
have one. Yeah, yeah.
Right. And I had a friend who had his own events who said, that's fine for people who don't actually take care of their customers, but so, and anyway,
I don't know.
yeah.
I had one for the events that I ran, even
Yeah,
though
me
they
too.
were free, you know. But like it was basically like just wanted it stated for the record that if you come and try and fuck with people at my event, I will help you find out. And I think the big thing everyone
That's
was always
good.
worried about is the enforcement. Like, how do you enforce these things? I mean, you just fucking get in people's faces and say no.
And even
You
if it's
stop
a
handing
speaker,
out candy and brushing up against the women here. We had a guy. It's always a guy.
there's always a guy. There's
There's always
always
a
a guy.
guy.
Well, there was one woman, but I'm not going to say who,
Yeah,
but there was
but
one woman who was like that. But
yeah,
basically, it was men. And
yeah. Anyway, yeah.
and
So
once
it's
we had
like
a
I'd
speaker,
rather.
and we never had him speak again.
Yeah.
Best, but we didn't.
Yes. Right.
And
But that's the thing. It's like
but
the
then
code of
I don't
conduct
know.
is a statement of how you hope things will be, and if they aren't that way, what you will do to address it. And that's it. It doesn't cover everything. It it can't cover everything, but it's a letter of intent, basically, of how you want things to be. And I think this kind of goes back to what I was just saying earlier. So I'm now sort of contradicting myself and realizing it. Like, I don't know how to use my voice. I think this is, I think it's why you make public statements about how you want the world to be, so that other people see you taking the risk, if it's a risk, making the statement. You are setting the stage for how you want your bubbles to be, and hopefully those bubbles increase the more people join them. Um, yeah.
You know what you could do? Bring an oxygen tank to your next event and go out of your way to try to shake hands with people. Be like, "Oh, hi, how have you been?
Yeah.
I'm right here."
Yeah.
Do that, and I
Yeah.
think it will quickly, the problem will sort itself.
Yeah. No, that'll always backfire. I've always got to be the one to just accept. I'm going to ask you a question. It is 100% acceptable if you say the answer is no, or if the answer is no. Have you read the novel that I sent you?
I have not. I read the children's book. I haven't read the novel yet. I am sorry. I love the children's book.
That's fine. I'm glad you liked it. There's a scene in there when I first get to Seattle, when I first left Alaska for the first time on my own, and
It's a novel or it's a memoir?
yeah, both. It's a auto fiction, I think, is the subgenre.
Oh, like
Um,
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
yes,
He's
yeah.
playing Larry
So
David, but
so
he
there's
has
stuff in
license.
there that I the bulk of it happened. They didn't necessarily happen in that order. Some of the things that get said weren't necessarily said by that person at that time.
Are you
And
fictionalizing all the other people?
all everybody except for two people in the book are real.
So if Bill Gates told you to fuck yourself, you'll say Bill Gates told me to fuck myself.
I mean, that would be a better story. So yes, I would say that out loud.
Okay, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay, so
So anyway, so there's a
are
scene,
you have you
and
been married your whole life? I mean, since your whole adult life?
um, well, where does adulthood start? Because I don't think I found it yet. No, I got married at 25, I
That's
think.
still,
How
and
old
you're
am I?
still
How old am
married to
I?
the same person.
No, 24.
Okay, so you're
Yeah.
divorced.
Yeah, we're coming up on 32 years in about 10 days.
Your second partner.
No, no, first. First.
Your first, so you're still married for 32
Yeah.
years, coming up on
Yeah.
32 years.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, we've been together 32, we've been married for 28. So,
all right. So you don't have I the divorce was painful and probably some of the most interesting things that ever happened to me and the most drama, the most life lessons, the greatest chance for a writer to really touch the human heart. But I can't fucking write about it because I'd be violating the privacy of my ex-wife and it would be
right.
cruel and I'd
Yeah.
probably get it wrong anyway. And she'd go, "What the fuck? You say I did this? I never said that." Like, because my memories often colored. My memories
No, I
are
get that. Yeah.
right. So, but like
So
maybe you had a
where
brother
I
who
drew
owes
the
you
line,
money, or where do you, or a father who's abusive or whatever. You can't really. It's hard to write about those things unless you're Lou Reed or what's the name of the drunk guy that was a great fiction writer. Barfly's based on
Ernest
his life.
Hemingway.
Not that drunk guy. No, there's a lot of them. Not
Yeah.
Fitzgerald. Later, Barfly with Mickey Rourke was and oh shit, you know him. He's got his name's like Kowalski, but it's not Kowalski. Listeners are screaming at their radios now, or whatever
Yes.
their idiot box
Yeah.
of whatever idiot box they're using.
Their idiot box of choice.
Yeah.
No, where I drew the line was if I felt it needed to be in, I actually asked the person if it's okay if I write about it. If I have lost touch with those people and I felt like it was on the edge of being a little too revealing, I would change the name. But still, it was a real person really happened. And so that's kind of where I drew the line. It's also about the risk you're willing to accept of, you know, this is my perspective and my story that I'm telling. This is my lived experience. I may get some of these things wrong, but they're right as far as my memory goes, which is all we have. If someone's going to challenge me on it, sure, let's have a conversation about it. But ultimately, like, the things I'm thinking about, none of them come close to a divorce kind of thing, you know? So,
Or having a child with a developmental problem, and you really want to write about what it's like to be that parent and what happens to a marriage under that, and what happens to the kid and how they grow up. You want to, it's brilliant stuff. But at the same time, it's their story, not yours, to tell.
yep.
Let me
But
put
you
it this
still,
way.
this
This
goes
is why
back
I
to the
haven't
top of
written.
what we're talking about. Like,
Right.
why write another UX book when Erica Hall already did it? Like,
Well,
I have a
why compose
perspective. I have a
music? Why,
story.
right.
Right.
But I stopped doing music because I was like, I think I had just started listening to opera, and I was listening to these incredible women singing these heartbreaking songs about like death and everything, and like crying, like listening with tears in my eyes, like in a scene from a movie. And I was like, okay, whatever I wanted to do with music, someone else already did it better. But that was
Yeah.
stupid of me. That was it.
Yes.
That's how
Yes,
we
it
talk
was.
ourselves out of,
Yeah.
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 I got an
Yeah. And
MFA in fiction writing. Oh,
there's a
sorry.
lot of things in my life, and I incorporated some of this into a talk a few years ago, but like when I got my first job with the UX stuff, you know, I maybe 3-4 weeks in, I heard from behind me, dude. And I turned around, the guy behind me was like, dude, you need to slow down because you're making the rest of us look bad.
They said that to my father too, when he was in
And I
early
slowed
in his
down.
engineering career.
I
Oh, you
slowed down.
did?
Mm-hmm. And I regret doing that.
Yeah,
Um,
of course you do.
and it's like, you know, I stopped blogging in 2008 because, you know, ego. I just wasn't getting any reaction from people from the stuff I wrote at all.
I'm having that now, and it's very frustrating,
It's very
especially if
frustrating.
when you write something and you go, "That's not bad.
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty
no
good.
one
I'm
says
proud of that."
anything.
Yeah,
No one sees it.
yeah,
And it's like, why am I doing this? And I regret stopping.
yeah. Okay,
So you don't stop.
I
That's what I'm
do.
saying.
I'm not writing
I'm
nearly as much
telling
as I
you,
did. Okay.
don't do it.
Or you're telling me not to.
Yeah, don't
So
do
I
it.
got an MFA in fiction writing in 1980,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote 3 novels, and none of them got published, and then I was done, which is ridiculous. If I could go back, so I don't know what I might have made some trash. I might have made something that actually touched people's lives. I don't know. I'm not regretting the past. I had my own path and I did things that I think were okay, but like why I was so committed to being a writer and writing fiction. And I'll tell you, it was 2 things. One was the rejections from publishers,
Mm-hmm.
but the other thing, I based characters on people I knew and they recognized themselves and didn't like the way they were portrayed. And I felt very guilty. There was a character, like the main female character in my novel Sugar and Snow, had a friend who was based on my girlfriend at the time, who was less intelligent than Sugar, the main character. And I showed it to her like the asshole that I am, not thinking she would recognize herself. And of course she did. And it was very hurtful. And I was just like, I can't do this. And I know Women in Love is a great novel by D.H. Lawrence. I love that book. I've read it maybe 5 times. He based it all on real people, but he based a contemptible character on an ex-girlfriend of his. And I don't know how you do that and publish it, and then it becomes, if you're lucky, you're so talented that it becomes a deathless classic. And it gets remade as a movie every 20 years or something. And now you're basic, right? So I decided it was a bigger value to me to be nice than to succeed as a writer. And I'm sure you can be both, but I didn't know how to do that. So
Okay.
tell me, is it a Bildungsroman? It's a novel of growing up, coming of age. There's not like, it's not like a tight plot, like a thriller or something where, you know,
No, no. And honestly, like, so I'm glad you liked the one you read. And I think that I care about that one. I care about the I Love Your Dog book because it's fun. Um, I care about the What Did You Get Me? I care a little bit about the poetry book because I think some of the poems in there are
I've
actually
read
good.
that. I've read that. It's nice.
Um,
Yeah.
some of them are
I
not,
go
but
through it. I go through it like reading a few at a time, and then I sit and
cool.
think about them, which is, I think, a
Yeah,
better way to read. I don't think you
I
should
agree.
zip through
You should
a
not
book
like a
of
novel
poems.
or something. Yeah, no.
Right. You're not trying to figure out what happens at the end, right?
But yeah, but with this specific novel, I wrote it for me, and it's okay if people don't like it. There's other projects I'm working on that are fiction that I do want people to like, but
Like
with
what?
this
Tell
one,
me
it
what else you're
was
doing.
well, okay. So I will caveat and say that I'm really stuck lately as far as creativity goes for some reason. See
It's
previous
because
part
you
of our
don't. It's because
conversation.
you. It's because you don't have a job right now.
It's part of it.
It's demoralizing, and
Yeah.
also, if you try to go like, I'm going to paint today, you go, yeah, you don't need a job, you lazy bastard.
Right.
Like you
Right. Right.
talk
Right.
to
Yeah.
yourself as a right.
Yeah. So um, there's a couple projects. There's another picture book that I'm working on. That on the off chance the person who it's about and it's an homage here is watches this, I don't want to say because it's a surprise for them. Haha. And the other one is a collaborative fiction book that I'm basically writing the what I'm thinking about as like the spine or the through line of the story. And then there are other characters that interact with the main character who I'm in charge of that are going to tell the main character stories. And I'm working with other people and they're going to write those stories and
That's a
those
great idea.
characters.
That's how they do
Um,
TV, right? There's a big long
I
arc for
honestly,
that's good
yeah,
TV. So the
yeah,
Sopranos, I know how
yeah,
I know how he's going to die, and I know what year he's going to die, and I know this basic arc, but I will hand different pieces of it to different writers to see what they make of it. I think
yeah, and free reign too.
that's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah, but I will
Is there
say
a
that I'm.
title? Do you have a working title?
It's called Well Written, um, because
Nice.
it takes place at the bottom of a well, um, with the main character um, thinking about committing suicide, changing his mind, falling in anyway, um,
Wow.
and the stories he hears from the people who are down at the bottom of the well who preceded him.
Are
Ghosts.
they all ghosts? Right.
They're all ghosts.
And he is too.
Whether or not, yeah, I haven't decided which way to take it yet, whether or not he's hallucinating this or whether or not in this world there are ghosts. Um, but yeah, and I've got, uh, you know, I've got a page on my site that's like all the projects I have lined up. Um, and just I've been trying to slowly work my way through them. Um,
That's
so,
great.
and just to your point about television, like I do think I've been so influenced by television that I tend to write very dialogue heavy stuff, and I tend to not describe characters very much unless it moves the plot forward or the character forward. Um, because
That's I like so. Who wrote The Thin Man and The Maltese Falcon and The Glass Key? Oh, Dashiell Hammett.
Dashiell Hammett,
Dashiell Hammett
yeah,
writes maybe like this character had a glass eye or a trick leg, or the man in the bowler hat, the woman with the beaver throw, whatever. And that's all you need. And it's dialogue and action. What the characters do
because
and
that's
what they
what a
say.
person's imagination is for. Like, you don't need to know that she wore a long flowing dress that, scraped along the floor like so many failed relationships in the past. BS,
I,
flowery,
have you
flowery,
have you
flowery
read the
description.
Alexandria Quartet? I read it in graduate school and I started rereading it, and it's amazing writing, but it's not particularly compelling storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of chops. It's like a
Yeah,
John McLaughlin. Wow, no one can play the guitar that fast. Look at the guy. That's amazing. And if you slow it down, it is musical. Like you go, oh, that's a melody. Yeah,
right,
he's not screwing around. He's
right. He
just
knows what he's doing. Yeah.
he's just got chops. And that's what this guy like. It's all beautiful. It's like a poem, a prose poem, a long prose poem. But
Mm.
I really love Hammett. It's like,
Yeah.
and oh, who's the guy from Detroit? He wrote Out of Sight. Uh, there's been a million movies and TV shows based on it. He sometimes writes westerns, but mostly he writes stories about crime, usually set in Detroit or just north of it in Canada. Lawrence, what's his name? His name is similar to. You know what? This is no. I'm not going to inflict this on your listeners. I'm very sorry.
That's all
But
right.
he's a master of dialogue. Detroit writer Elmore Leonard.
Elmore
Thank you,
Leonard. Okay.
Elmore Leonard. If you like that kind of writing,
Mm-hmm.
read Elmore Leonard's like Out of Sight. Just books like that. They're amazing, and the dialogue tells you everything about the people. And then there's just a couple, you know.
Yeah, because after like in real life, for me, what someone's wearing is much less interesting than what they're saying or what they're doing. Um, so it's
Unless you know about fashion. What's the woman who wrote Slouching, Joan Didion, Slouching Toward Bethlehem? She would say in a crepe de chine shawl, whatever. And I just thought when I was young reading that, oh, that's so cool. I wonder what that is. But what she was saying would mean something to people in a certain economic class.
right because it tells you something about the character
Like right,
specifically. Yeah,
like
it moves the plot forward or it moves the character forward. But
what's
it's
the they made a movie. It's an unfilmable book. Um, Batman is, plays the character. They all look at their business cards and have envy over each other's business cards. This is a fun game. What is the old man thinking of?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I got nothing on this one.
American Psycho,
Oh,
and it's the
okay. Yeah, I
actor who
never saw
played.
it. Yeah,
It's and you never read it,
whatever his name is.
but there's
No.
so much. He'll have whole sections of the novel after maybe doing some utterly brutal thing, where the guy just talks about why he likes Genesis after Peter Gabriel quit so much better than before he left, because he really thinks, what's the guy's name, the drummer who became their singer, and then Phil Collins.
Phil Phil Collins. Yeah.
He just rhapsodic about Phil Collins, who basically is a very mediocre person who figured out how to make pop that sold, but not. He was a really great drummer. Don't get me wrong; he's a really talented musician, but like I don't. If you think about all the music that's ever mattered to you, and Phil Collins is the
Yeah.
most, then something's wrong. I'm sorry,
No,
something's
yeah. I
wrong.
mean, you
But
said that, and I immediately thought of REM, IRS, REM, Warner Brothers. Like, I draw a line, a hard
oh,
line of what I will listen to and what I will ignore.
well, every band that I
And
love, there's a point where they cross the line.
yeah,
I loved Talking Heads up through Stop Making Sense, and then I did not like their country movie and their country album. It just
oh
seemed,
yeah,
I just thought, and I love David Byrne, and if you and I are on the spectrum, he's way on the spectrum, but I thought it was like, I don't know, making fun of people, not that interesting. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't care for it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's their best work.
nah, I don't
First,
know. I
I
don't
no,
know about
their
best.
first their first four albums, first five, up through their first albums up through the one where they basically had half of Parliament Funkadelic in the studio with them right before they made Stop Making
Is
Sense.
that
They made the
naked?
Party album.
No.
No, I don't like Naked. Before that, um, uh, I got a girlfriend who's better than that. Like
Yeah.
those songs. Real. It's like if someone took Funkadelic exactly but gave them David Byrne's lyrics. That's basically like weird white guy instead of black people, but same music. Make of that what you will. And
Yeah.
Remain in Light is
And
like
and I
Parliament at one third the speed, and African music at one third the speed. It's like they recorded a bunch of African music and then slowed it down in the studio and went, "Whoa, this sounds cool as shit." That's my thought. I
yeah.
could be wrong.
So I think if I wanted to have, because I do this sometimes, if I wanted to have a strong opinion about something like REM, which is
I don't know their later music.
for a, like, for a character in a book, like, I would say I would put something like that in, right?
Sure, exactly.
If if it told you something about the person that I'm writing about, right?
And not everyone will get it, and that's
And
okay
not
because
everyone
the
will
right,
get it, and that's okay, right? Yeah. So to your point about Joan Didion with the
right.
fashion stuff,
I don't think she
I
was
could
worrying
totally see
about,
doing that. Yeah,
right.
but
I don't think she was worrying this kid from Pittsburgh might not get my critique of very wealthy people in Los Angeles. Like, of course, I couldn't possibly. I would get something from it. I got a lot from the story, but not. I wouldn't necessarily know what it. That by mentioning a particular brand of scarf, she was letting me know that the character was on hard times now. Like, I would not know that. We I grew up in sort of an anti-fashion era, and the people who were fashionable, like all the people who went to Studio 54, I thought they were
mm,
jerks. Just that was just the prejudice of my time and my, I, you know. Now I think, well, they were probably at a much better party than I've ever been to,
maybe
but I don't
still
know.
not your scene though.
It's not my
It's
scene.
not better for you, right? Better for them, but
I stopped going to clubs when I stopped drinking because you kind of have to. Like, there's no way.
yeah, yeah,
There's no way. I could now, but there was certainly no way the first 30 years that I could just go to a club and not expect to get fucked up. But I loved it when I was drinking. And if it was dangerous, I moved to New York when it was still really dangerous. And I loved that about it. And as I sobered up and realized I would rather continue to live and be safe, New York realized the same thing. I sobered up the same time New York did. So that's interesting. But I was here for a lot of. I mean, I went to clubs in the Lower East Side anyway. I didn't go to like Studio 54 or anything like that. I probably couldn't have afforded the cover. I wouldn't. And now I listen to disco and think what incredibly great music it is. And I've been listening to disco maybe for 10 years going, boy, was I wrong. But at the time, you could not get me to listen to disco or dance to. No way. Disco
Yeah.
sucks.
Right. It's how you fit into the group that you fit into, right?
Right,
It's not just what you like, but what you don't like. And that's how we
right. And
um
who we don't like. And that's how we
right.
had, and that this
Yeah.
was election was maybe partly about who we don't like, who enough of us don't like, sadly.
Yeah. Well, I'm really I was thinking about this morning. I if I live long enough, 30 years from now, I hope to see the the nonfiction book that comes out that just is, titled FAFO, how one election made America lose its mind. And it's just going to be like, now that we have time separating us from this awful period, here's what really happened.
I hope they do a better job than the JFK revelations, which
Yeah,
are
that's kind of
he
what made
was
me
a
think about it,
yeah,
right?
he was from
It's
Boston and he was president. He had a nice haircut. Young men admired him. Women wanted him. It's like, yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Well,
all
my
right, Jeffy,
friend,
I kept you
it's
pretty
time.
long. It's time. Let's
It's
stop
time.
talking.